Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the much loved C1 Spirit from Crusader Industries. As with my other review, I won't get deep into the details on statistics because frankly there are much better channels out there for that kind of thing. I'll be focusing on what the ship is actually like to own, warts and all, things I like and things I don't like, and whether it's worth actually upgrading to the ship. Before we do get started, if you find yourself enjoying the video or find it useful, then a like or even a sub if you're feeling especially generous would be amazing. These things help a newer creator like myself out so much. That being said, let's get into it. Classified as a medium-sized hauler, the C1 Spirit is a fantastic single-crew multi-role ship for people wanting to expand their possibilities in the verse coming from the starter ships. This ship was actually part of my own personal upgrade path early on and helped me discover my love for the current cargo hauling gameplay loop. I know many people still use the C1 as their daily driver, and it's easy to see why. On top of its capabilities, it's also a very good looking ship, both inside and out, with plenty of amenities throughout the ship for the times when those things actually start to matter. The interior feels polished and fairly well thought out as well. The Spirit comes with actual inventory space, which is something I've definitely been missing in the Taurus as well. That comes above the beds for storing small supplies, which is definitely nice to have instead of carrying a backpack full of hot dogs all the time. I'll be honest, when I first started playing Star Citizen, my eye was always drawn to the more polished looking ships and would look at form over function the majority of the time. That mindset brought this ship to the top of my list very early on. Let's take a look at some of the things I like about this ship. As already mentioned, it looks great. There are nice little touches everywhere that show off that level of polish and attention to detail the ship has received. Even the way the VTOL thrusters fold out tickles something in my brain and I can't quite describe it. With 64 SCU of cargo capacity, the C1 Spirit really opens the door to being able to take on some of those larger hauling contracts or even chaining together multiple smaller cargo contracts for those bigger profits. Especially if you've come from a smaller starter ship like the Avenger Titan, this extra space is huge. There is also a co-pilot controlled tractor beam that comes in handy if a friend wants to help load or unload the ship at the same time, as well as being able to pick up some of those larger boxes that the multi-tool might not quite be able to handle yet. It also allows you to move those boxes and strip stuff off of soft death ships in space without ever actually leaving the ship. Though it can be a bit finicky at times getting it to work, I would love to see this potentially being controlled from the pilot seat as well. Pairing this ship with the Argo ATLS makes a lot of sense. The central walkway between the cargo grids is the perfect place to store the mech while flying to the next destination. And if you stand just right on the ramp and use the free look method, loading and unloading is a breeze. You can also store several other vehicles, but don't try the Ursa or the medical Ursa, trust me, I've tried. Maybe someone has managed to make it fit, but I wouldn't recommend it. The ship has a relatively decent amount of quantum fuel for you to zip around the verse on your cargo delivery runs as well, and never has me worrying if I can make it to the next location without being able to stop for fuel in between. The Spirit is no slouch in combat either, dishing out, I believe, 1,668 DPS with 4 size 3 cannons as stock on the ship. It can deal out some punishment to lighter fighters whilst also being relatively maneuverable at the same time. The sound of the thrusters when boosting will never get old during combat. Now let's take a look at some of the things I don't like so much, and to be honest, some of this is a little bit nitpicky, but they are things that did start to grate on me over time. First off is the doors and how long it takes to get to your pilot seat. I feel like it's become a bit of a meme at this point that Crusader ships are just door hallways, but it really does get irritating. Having to wait for the ramp, then an internal blast door, then the airlock door, then yet another airlock door, all just to get to the pilot seat is crazy after the 20th time you've done it during a play session. Even just a little ladder into the cockpit area or habitation area would be amazing. This one is a personal preference, but I'm not a fan of running cannons on my ships, and whenever a ship comes with them as stock, I'm a little bit disappointed. While they are satisfying when they hit, and they do hit hard, being limited to so few shots at a time is rough, especially when battling a few more nimble fighters at one time. The only other minor annoyance is this red projection, which should show where the end of the ramp will come down to, but it never is. It's always halfway up the ramp or absolutely miles away from it. It's only really minor, but it bothers me a little bit more than it probably should. The inside of the ship and the interior is great. It looks beautiful, but most of it is not really functional at this point in the game. Unless you're like me and you're really interested in how a ship looks over where it performs, then this ship could be perfect. But a lot of this is just window dressing for the time being until these different gameplay loops do start to get implemented into Star Citizen, and who knows when that will be. So there you have it, a quick rundown of the C1 Spirit, and honestly it's a great little ship for anyone wanting to expand their capabilities from the starter ships, and is a nice gateway into the cargo hauling profession that I love. But I'd like to know what you think of the Spirit. Do you love it, hate it? Are you somewhere in between? I know a lot of you are still using the Spirit as your daily driver. Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.